everyone, and welcome to the main event. I am your host, Troy, and with me, as always, is the mosh to my thrasher. What is up, Greg?
What up? Our first show, you go to that.
Well, I'm trying to stay topical, Greg. This is the first episode of Main Event Marks. We did a quick intro yesterday, kind of explaining who we are, what we're about, all that good stuff. That is in the archives for yesterday. Definitely go check that out. It's only a 15-minute quick, what's happening kind of thing, and it'll explain kind of what you should be in store for. Today we might make some obscure references. I'm not quite sure. We don't rehearse any of this, guys. We just kind of hit the mic and go. But we do have notes, so there's that. Greg and I are what I would consider walking wrestling encyclopedias, and I consider myself a walking wrestling encyclopedia with some of the pages torn out because stuff I've just either blocked out of my memory or stuff I've forgotten. And you usually remind me, it's like, yeah, don't you remember when blah, blah, blah? And it's like, oh my gosh. But
I tried not to, but thanks a lot, you jerk.
Yeah. Hey, I've done that to you a few times too, and you're like,
that's exactly word for word what I say to you.
Yeah.
You
so
jerk.
we're gonna have a lot of fun with that, remembering some of the stuff that we may have forgotten. And we're going to cover all the news and notes from around this time in history before we actually dive into the show itself. Are you ready for these some of these news and notes, Greg?
As ready as I can be.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we have to start off the news. I guess we don't have to start it off this way, but I sorted it out this way. We're starting off on kind of a down note on the news because in June of 1998, the Junkyard dog died this month in a car accident driving home from his daughter's high school graduation. Do you remember that news dropping?
I do, yeah.
I was a little
kind of hit me a little hard
young.
because I was a huge fan of his when I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, and it's sad that he was driving home from his daughter's high school graduation. Well, it gets worse because apparently dog arrived several hours late after the graduation had already ended, and his daughter had already left with friends, so he never even saw her before he died. That's kind of rough. She didn't, and his daughter didn't find out until the next morning that he had even attempted to come to the graduation, and she also learned of his death at the same exact time. Bad stuff. And I guess from what Jim Ross had said, his daughter was not like an easy person to track down. Because if you remember when he went into the Hall of Fame posthumously, they got his daughter to show up and accept the award for him. Do you remember what year that, or what WrestleMania that was that he went in?
That was WrestleMania 20, I believe. That's when they brought back the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And he said they had the darnest time tracking her down. And when they finally did, they were like, okay, well, we want to get your personal information, whatever, because your dad has a lot of like royalty checks that we want to send to you, because right now we're just sitting on his money, and we, fair is fair. You deserve, what's coming to you from your dad's stuff. So that was pretty cool on WWE's part, later on. Another bad story. This is somewhat wrestling related, and you'll see why. I don't know if you would have been tuned into the news about this at this time or not. It's from your neck of the woods. An elementary school in California was defaced with racist graffiti and Nazi symbols. And amidst all the hateful graffiti, the vandals also spray painted 316 and NWO for life.
Thus giving away their age, by the way.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they probably went to that school.
What grown man or woman, I guess I shouldn't assume, but what grown person is going to write that?
Yeah, it's like the most racist, hateful things you can possibly think of. By the way, wrestling references. Like, what?
Well, it was the Attitude Era. Things were a little bit murky, to put it lightly.
You know what's weird is in the Attitude Era, they didn't even have Nazis then. but they did back in the old days. Like that was a thing. People forget, they think, oh, Fritz Von Erich, he was the father of the Von Erich boys, and beloved in Texas. He ran world-class championship wrestling. By the way, he started off as a Nazi character.
Yeah.
That's why his last name was Von Erich.
Thus, playing into every Texan stereotype ever.
Yeah. He made a lot of money as a fake Nazi. Okay. I'm not defending him, just saying.
Say Heil Hitler. It'll be so over, bro.
Bro, we got this idea, bro. ECW probably won't be back to Monaca, Pennsylvania, I believe is how you pronounce it, anytime soon. A local priest attended their last show.
Oh, good grief.
And then went on an anti-ECW crusade, writing letters to the local paper and throwing a fit to the venue's owners. So the building they were at has decided to no longer let ECW run shows there. Oh, I'm sure they were torn up about not going back to Monaca.
I'm just saying, I don't think a pre-show or going to an ECW show.
I mean, the only thing I can think of in his defense about it was, well, I keep hearing all this bad stuff. Maybe I should go see it for myself.
And what? Try to get the devil out of him?
Maybe he went to see if it really was as bad as people were telling him it was. I don't know.
Did they really crucify a man on TV? Yes, that's probably what.
Yeah. Well, this was 98. I guess they had done that.
I think it was in 96 when they did that. Yeah. So honestly, that's the first thing I thought about when you said priest going ECW.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right about 96, because I remember they had Kurt Angle in the audience, and he had just won the gold medal with a broken freaking neck.
And they didn't have Kane come out and tombstone the priest, so already a fail. So,
good Lord. Now that the NBA playoffs are over, WCW is expected to announce Hogan and Dennis Rodman versus DDP and Karl Malone at the upcoming Bash at the Beach pay-per-view. This is around the same time that Rodman skipped out on practice to show up on Nitro. I believe you get references to that in The Last Dance, right?
You do. You even get some footage. Some footage of it too.
Well, there you go.
That's Rodman just crazy. Like I'm thinking about nowadays. I'm like, if someone was to do that nowadays, they'd probably be fined like $1 trillion. Maybe suspended a few games, because that's where we are now in sports. You get suspended for any little thing, or not punished enough for a big thing. One of the two. But
well, you think? That'd be like I'm going to make this reference because it's you. The Warriors are in the finals, and before game 4 of the finals, Draymond Green just shows up on Raw and says, "I'll practice some other time."
That's funny, because that would be the one.
Yeah, and he's setting up for a tag match, Playa, coming up at SummerSlam or something like that. Yeah, oh, grief. WCW
also, real quick, they would not allow that in today's NBA, for an athlete to go do another sport that's like a physical sport like that. Nope. So we're in a completely different time too, all around.
Well, yeah. Remember, this is obviously a different league. But when Pac-Man Jones was in TNA as a tag team champion, by the way, he was not allowed to get physical at all.
Yep.
His only quote unquote physical move was he took a stack of money and threw it at somebody like he was at a strip club.
Monopoly money at that too, by the way.
Good Lord. Yeah, he made it rain on some poor unsuspecting soul, and then Ron Killings, aka R-Truth, rolled them up for the pin. Man, foreshadowing for the 24/7 title, right?
Yeah, one of my favorite things in wrestling right now.
You and I are vastly different on that opinion. Ah, man. My thing is, I might like it more if there were less schoolboy roll-ups for the win. That's
kind of why I like it, because it's just so stupid and random. And
well, it's like, can't we see the occasional small package? And I'm not talking about Rob Gronkowski. Oh, I'm kidding. I kid, but seriously, don't kill me, Gronk. WCW has a. Actually, after that joke, he might high-five me. because he's on that level. WCW has a Nitro scheduled for the Georgia Dome next month, and they already broke the company all-time gate record with the first day ticket sales. 14,000 plus tickets were sold on the first day for over $540,000, which breaks the record set by Starrcade this past December.
And they didn't even have a main event set yet.
Yeah. Well, was this the I'm getting my timelines mixed up here, but was this the where Goldberg was beating Hogan?
Yeah.
Or the finger poke?
No, that is also in the Georgia Dome, but that's in January of the next year. So about 5 months away? 6 months?
Okay, so this was Goldberg versus Hogan main event?
Yeah.
Okay. The Charlotte Observer newspaper ran a story on the Ric Flair WCW issues. The current argument seems to be over whether Flair can be held to the letter of intent that he signed in 1997 when he agreed to stay with the company for 3 years. This was a big bone of contention. If people have listened to Eric Bischoff or Ric Flair talk about it, big stuff. And Bruce Pritchard even said that Flair was going to show up at some WWF pay-per-view with Reed, who had just won a wrestling, like an amateur wrestling.
I want to say that was fully loaded the next month.
It might have been, yeah, because he said Flair, they were going to show Rick and Reed front row, and the camera would pan over and say, well, we have a wrestling champion in the crowd named Flair, and then they would focus on Reed because he just won a wrestling tournament. And Flair,
God, that's the ultimate troll job.
Oh yeah. Well, and then they said they would interview Reed, and Rick would just be standing there like the proud father or whatever on camera, and just to piss off WCW. But I guess they said Rick was literally in the arena parking lot doing circles in his car on the phone he was on one line with Bruce Pritchard and on the other line with his lawyer. And his lawyer said, yeah, probably shouldn't do that. So they scrapped it. But that would have been good TV, man. Or good pay-per-view, whatever. Speaking of WCW, they have filed a lawsuit against the WWF, and that is almost identical to the lawsuit the WWF filed against them in 1996. The suit alleges use of WCW trademarks, violating unfair trade practice laws, and other such stuff. All of these seem to stem from the DX skit, where they showed up at WCW events and aired the footage on TV. As a result of the lawsuit, WWF has stopped all references to WCW. I mean, by this point, WWF was kind of pulling away. So, the old saying, when you're number one, you never mention number two.
Yeah, but I think they were trading victories at the time of that, quote, invasion.
Yeah, they were. It was around this time when WWF was, they hadn't quite pulled away yet, but they were in the driver's seat. Something that wasn't in the driver's seat here. Latest plans on Ultimate Warrior is for him to debut in August or September in WCW. But again, that can all change depending on the ratings. If WCW keeps losing to the WWF, expect him to debut sooner. Yeah, they really, I don't know. They really thought too much of what the Warrior could do for their ratings, I think.
I mean, the night he debuted, I jumped a little bit, but
yeah, it was like seeing somebody cross like a race car cross the finish line, and you're like, yes, and then it bursts into flames and crashes into a wall, and you're like, what? And then you keep watching because you're like, what's gonna happen? Is he dead? Like, that's the only thing I could think of, because it starts off, you're like, oh my gosh, the Warrior's here, it's going against the NWO, Hollywood Hogan, and then he keeps talking, and you're like, what am I watching? And then it just keeps getting exponentially worse from there. Like, you and I are going to have to cover the Warriors' time in WCW on this podcast. We just have to.
I do have a figure of that, Warrior.